Imagine it's the dead of night and you are lying in bed drifting off to sleep. Suddenly you hear a faint noise from the basement, a soft thump, followed by a whisper that sends shivers down your spine. Your heart races as you realize you are home alone, and the basement door is slightly ajar. What was once a place for storage now feels like a gateway to something sinister lurking in the shadows. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are diving into 5 true horror stories that unfolded in the dead of night. While the night can bring peace and quiet, it can also hide terrifying secrets. These stories remind us that sometimes the most chilling events occur when we least expect them, and the darkness can hold more than we can imagine. Get ready for a journey into the unknown. Story 1. The Intruder in the Shadows. In the late 1980s, a young woman named Amelia was thrilled to move into her cozy, albeit slightly run-down apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The place had character, vintage wallpaper, creaky floorboards, and a view of the city skyline. After a long week of moving and setting up her new life, she finally settled in for a much-deserved night of relaxation. As the clock struck midnight, the city outside began to quiet down, and Amelia wrapped herself in a soft blanket, ready to enjoy a late-night movie. However, just as she began to lose herself in the film, she heard a soft rustling sound emanating from the shadows of her living room. At first, she brushed it off, attributing it to the old building settling or perhaps a stray cat outside. But as the minutes ticked by, the sound grew louder, now distinctly resembling footsteps padding across her hardwood floor. Her heart raced as she muted the television and strained her ears, the quietness of the apartment amplifying every little noise. Deciding to investigate, Amelia tiptoed toward the source of the sound. The rustling stopped abruptly, leaving her in a suffocating silence. With her heart pounding in her chest, she flipped on the light switch, illuminating the room. To her relief, nothing appeared out of place, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Just as she turned to return to her movie, she noticed her front door slightly ajar. Panic washed over her as she rushed to her bedroom and locked the door, her hands trembling as she dialed 911. As she whispered her address to the operator, she could hear the sound of footsteps again, growing louder, accompanied by a chilling whisper. "Sarah, let me in." When the police arrived, they searched the apartment thoroughly but found no sign of forced entry or an intruder. However, they discovered a disturbing clue, a hidden compartment in her closet containing personal belongings and items belonging to previous tenants. Amelia learned that the apartment had a troubling history. Previous residents had reported similar occurrences, but the police had never apprehended anyone. Feeling unsafe in her own home, Sarah decided to leave the apartment shortly after. But the experience haunted her long after she moved out, a constant reminder that some shadows hide more than just darkness. Story 2. The Haunting of the Child's Room. In 2007, a young couple, Mark and Lisa, excitedly moved into a charming old house nestled in a peaceful suburb. With its quaint architecture and spacious yard, it seemed like the perfect place to start a family. As they settled in, they were charmed by the house's vintage features, but they quickly discovered that it was not as idyllic as it seemed. Shortly after moving in, their youngest daughter, Emily, began reporting strange occurrences in her room. At first, it was innocent enough. Emily claimed to have a new friend who lived in the walls of her room. The couple chuckled at her vivid imagination, dismissing her claims as typical childhood fantasy. However, as the days passed, odd noises began to plague the household at night. The sounds of giggles and whispers echoed through the halls, causing Mark and Lisa to exchange nervous glances as they lay in bed. One particularly stormy night, Lisa woke up to find Emily standing at the foot of her bed, her face pale and wide-eyed. "Mommy, the girl is back," she whispered, trembling. Alarmed, Lisa jumped out of bed and hurried to Emily's room, her heart pounding in her chest. When she arrived, the room was empty, but the air felt thick and charged with energy. The little girl insisted that her friend wanted to play, a statement that sent chills down Lisa's spine. That night, as Mark and Lisa tried to sleep, they heard soft, childlike laughter coming from Emily's room. Unable to ignore it any longer, they decided to investigate further. They discovered a series of drawings Emily had created, each depicting a small girl with hollow eyes standing in the corner of her room. The imagery became increasingly disturbing, showing the girl growing darker and more sinister. Concerned for their daughter's safety, the parents reached out to a local paranormal investigator who revealed that the house had a tragic history. Decades ago, a young girl had lived there and had died under mysterious circumstances, her spirit believed to still linger in the home. The investigator suggested performing a cleansing ritual to rid the house of its troubled spirit. After the ceremony, the strange occurrences ceased, and Emily no longer spoke of her friend. However, Mark and Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that the little girl had not truly left. They often found themselves glancing at the empty corners of the room, feeling a lingering presence that made them uneasy. While they moved on with their lives, the memory of those haunting nights lingered like a shadow, a reminder of the unseen world that surrounded them. Story 3: The Curse of the Haunted Doll. In the 1970s, a couple named Robert and Ann were gifted an exquisite antique doll by a distant family member. The doll was intricately designed, with porcelain skin, glassy blue eyes, and a vintage dress. Yet there was something unsettling about it that made Ann uneasy. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she felt an inexplicable dread every time she looked at the doll. Despite her apprehensions, they placed the doll on a shelf in their living room. At first it seemed harmless enough, but soon after, strange occurrences began to unfold. Late at night, they would hear soft whispers and giggles that seemed to emanate from the doll's direction. Each night, the sounds grew louder, interrupting their peaceful evenings. One particularly eerie night, they awoke to find the doll had moved from its shelf to the center of the living room. Terrified, Robert and Ann attempted to rationalize it, dismissing it as a prank or their imagination running wild. However, the events escalated when they discovered a series of drawings their young daughter had created, each depicting the doll standing in the shadows, eyes wide and menacing. With each passing night, the couple experienced vivid nightmares featuring the doll, each dream culminating in a chilling realization that the doll was watching them, its expression shifting from innocent to malevolent. They decided to contact a local paranormal expert who revealed that the doll was believed to be cursed, harboring the restless spirit of a child who had passed away tragically. Fearing for their family's safety, they made the difficult decision to dispose of the doll. They buried it deep in the woods, hoping to end the curse once and for all. After doing so, the strange occurrences ceased and their nightmares faded. However, years later, they learned that the new owners of the house had found the doll buried in the attic. The couple realized that the curse had merely passed on, leaving behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. Story 4: The Stranger at the Window. In the early 2000s, a college student named Emily found herself excited about her new apartment, a vintage building that was both charming and affordable. She shared the place with a couple of friends, and they all loved the vintage character of the old structure. One night, as she studied late for an upcoming exam, Emily glanced out the window and saw a figure standing across the street, silhouetted against the streetlights. The figure seemed to be staring directly at her. Chills ran down her spine, and she quickly pulled the curtains shut, convincing herself it was just a trick of the light. However, as the hours passed, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. That night, she was awoken by the sound of scratching coming from the window. Heart racing, she got up to investigate but found nothing there. Disturbed but determined to rationalize it, Emily set up a camera to monitor the window while she slept. The next day, she anxiously reviewed the footage, her heart pounding as she pressed play. To her horror, the camera captured the dark figure standing at her window, its face obscured, but its eyes appeared wide and hollow. It watched her intently, as if waiting for her to notice. Feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, she shared the footage with her roommates, who were equally disturbed. They decided to leave the apartment immediately, seeking refuge at a friend's place. Days later, they learned from the landlord that the previous tenants had also experienced strange occurrences, including sightings of the same figure. Though they moved on to a new apartment, the chilling memory of the stranger at the window stayed with Emily, a constant reminder that not all shadows are innocent. The feeling of being watched lingered long after they left, a ghostly presence that left her questioning the safety of even the most familiar places. Story 5: The Cry of the Babysitter. In the summer of 1999, a high school student named Laura took a babysitting job for a family in her neighborhood. Excited to earn some extra cash, she arrived at the house and was quickly introduced to the children, who were already in bed. After putting them to sleep, Laura settled on the couch, excited to catch up on her favorite shows. Just as she was getting comfortable, her phone rang. It was the father checking in. "Hey Laura, how are the kids?" he asked casually. "They're sound asleep," she replied cheerfully. As their conversation continued, the father jokingly asked if she could hear any strange noises coming from the house, and Laura chuckled, brushing it off as a playful comment. But moments later, she heard a faint cry coming from upstairs. It was a soft, childlike whimper that sent chills down her spine. Rushing upstairs, Laura found the kids sound asleep, oblivious to the strange sounds. Just as she returned to the living room, her phone buzzed again. It was a text from the father. "Laura, I need you to listen carefully. If you hear a noise and it's coming from inside the house, do not go upstairs. I'll call the police." Her heart raced. Suddenly, she felt a presence behind her. Turning slowly, she saw a figure standing at the entrance of the hallway, illuminated by the flickering light. It was a ghostly figure of a woman, dressed in a tattered nightgown, staring at Laura with hollow eyes. Frozen with fear, she rushed to the front door, her heart pounding as she glanced back at the figure. The whispers grew louder, urging her to come closer. But Laura sprinted outside just as the police arrived. The officers conducted a thorough search, but found no one in the house. They later discovered that years ago, a tragedy had unfolded in that very home. A mother had lost her life under mysterious circumstances, leaving her children behind. Laura's chilling experience became a local legend, a reminder of the spirits that linger long after tragedy strikes. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more creepy stories. Which of these true stories gave you a chilling experience? Let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are real.